Good evening, everyone, and welcome to week 8 of the Coast to Coast podcast. Today, we are without Carson Hull, and it's just going to be Jose and I running the show today. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, starting off with game number 1 of the week, we have the Falcons with a 25-17 win over the Panthers. Very pretty pedestrian stat line for Matt Ryan, not doing so well. 21-30 for 281 yards. No touchdowns, an interception, and then 6 rushes, 27 yards, and a touchdown, giving him 17.94 fantasy points in the day. Todd Gurley with an interesting situation in the backfield. He was splitting a lot of carries with Brian Hill. Gurley was able to manage 46 rushing yards to the TD, but Hill did get 11 carries for 55 yards. Julio Jones with 7 receptions for 137 yards and 20.7 points. Jose, what do you got to say about the Panthers?
Yeah, I mean, Julio still elite, obviously. 7 catches for 137, but I think the Panthers struggled pretty much the whole game except for Curtis Samuel. 2 touchdowns for him, 1 in the air and 1 on the ground, but not much volume other than the 2 touchdowns that he got. Just a weird Thursday night game.
Yeah, especially now we know CMC wasn't going to come back given the short week, but expect him to see him in this next matchup for them coming up in week 9. So going on the game number 2, we have the Bills pulling out an AFC East victory over their rival New England Patriots, 24-21. Cam Newton simply is not the answer here in New England. With 174 passing yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 9 rushes for 54 yards and a touchdown. So you're going to get rushing yards from him and you're going to get a TD every once in a while, but it seems like he's simply not the answer at quarterback when he's throwing the ball. Damian Harris, 102 yards rushing with a TD and 16.2 points. And just not really anyone on this Patriots team that I would deem usable in fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, the Pats are the only team in the NFL without a touchdown in the first quarter. So that shows you a lot about their struggles establishing the run game and just overall getting their offense going. But the Bills somehow pulled out the win with kind of a struggling Josh Allen. He still hasn't been able to put it together week by week. I don't think he's thrown a touchdown in the past 2 weeks. But Zach Moss had 81 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Good emergence from him. Him and Singletary split carries, but I think he had the better day. So we'll see how
he's getting the goal line work.
Yeah.
But no, it seems like Josh Allen just fell from all the way to the top. People were saying him first few weeks of the new season that he was probably going to be up for MVP, and I see there's no chance at this point unless he somehow just goes nuclear. So sad to see. So hopping to game number 3, we got Tua Tagovailoa of the Miami Dolphins with his 28-17 victory over the Rams in his debut game. You know, not very a good game by him, but this Dolphins defense carried it for them. Tua Tagovailoa, 12 of 22 for 93 yards and a touchdown pass to star wide receiver Devontae Parker. Myles Gaskin wasn't really the most efficient with 18 rushes for 47 yards and a touchdown, but what really came to life was forcing, I believe, 3 turnovers on Jared Goff, or maybe it was just 2, but Goff throwing 2 interceptions. You saw Jakeem Grant get a punt return touchdown. Everything was clicking for this Dolphins team.
Yeah, I mean, Tua he looks like a rookie. Not really having the best time out there, but his defense has got his back. And Gaskin with an okay PPR game, but sadly he's hurt and he's out for 3 weeks. So I don't know who's his next replacement. I think it's Matt Breida. But Cooper Kupp with a good PPR day, 11 catches for 110 yards. Hopefully Cooper Kupp is back and he keeps putting up these type of numbers because I need him.
Yeah, and Robert Woods of a really quiet game, but he came out and balled. He was our flex player of the week in fantasy with 7 receptions, 85 yards, and a touchdown, and also a rushing touchdown for 9 yards as well. So going into the battle of the AFC East, one of the best divisions in football, we had the Steelers coming up on top 28-24 over reigning MVP Lamar Jackson and his Ravens. Seemed like the Steelers are definitely a team to be scared of this year. You know, last year the defense of the league to be scared of was the Patriots, but this year it's definitely the Steelers. You know, not the secondary threat that the Patriots were last year, but they're definitely their pass rush with Bud Dupree and TJ Watt just going crazy out there. Juju Smith-Schuster with a pretty good game for himself, given what we've seen the last few weeks, 7 receptions, 67 yards. Chase Claypool with 5 receptions, 42 yards and a touchdown, and Eric Ebron with 4 receptions, 48 yards and a touchdown. And if you had James Conner, some good production there, 47 yards and a touchdown. So what do you guys say about this one, Jose?
Something about this Steelers team, I don't know. They just don't seem like a real contender to me. I just do not trust them in the playoffs. Juju had a solid game, but only worth a start in PPR, at least going forward. Good slot, but Connor inefficient on the ground. It's pretty much just the defense that carries them in their games. But the Ravens just falling off a cliff. Lamar continues to struggle. Dobbins with a good rushing day, as well as Edwards. They all split. They all got over 15 carries, Dobbins, Edwards, and Lamar. But they're the first team since 1950 to outrush another team by over 200 yards and outpass them and still lose the game. So, I don't know. This Ravens team, they've got to figure some stuff out.
Yeah, some big question marks. Who knows? I mean, I think the trade deadline's tomorrow, maybe, or is it already? I don't know if it's passed yet, but maybe the Ravens need to make a new move besides, acquiring Yannick Ngakoue. I think they need to make a move on offense to get a receiver to play alongside Marquise Brown. So going to this next game with the Bengals, Joe Burrow getting a 31-20 victory over the Titans. Very concerning for the Titans here to be losing this game. But workhorse back Derrick Henry with 18 rushes for 112 yards and a touchdown. Corey Davis was the star receiver for the Titans this game with 8 receptions, 128 yards and a touchdown. But A.J. Brown still managed to get a touchdown in there. A decent game. Not too big of a bust if you started him. But really good outing here from Joe Burrow, especially without being able to work with Joe Mixon. But that receiving core of T. Higgins, Auden Tate, Tyler Boyd, Giovanni Bernard pitched in there. A.J. Green I know he had a big catch there late in the game. Some decent production out of here, but a very interesting game. What do you got to say about this one?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be too worried for these Titans. I think they're still a solid team. And this Bengals offense is actually really high-powered. Despite what their record might say, they've got a really good offense. But the Titans just traded for Desmond King, so I wouldn't be too worried for them. I think they're going to be solid going in the playoffs, and watch out for them.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see. So, Jose, you want to tackle this Game 6 Raiders-Browns?
Man, this Raiders game was just boring to watch. I mean, there was really not a lot of action in this game. No touchdowns from Baker. No touchdowns from Josh Jacobs. Not even any passing work from him. So pretty much just a subpar day. Just 128 yards rushing, but that's only 12 points in all formats. So just not really an interesting game other than Josh Jacobs. I mean, there's really no one relevant in here fantasy-wise.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see that Kareem Hunt, wasn't putting up better numbers given that this Browns offense is – if the pass wasn't working, you'd expect them to be pounded in the run more and more. But, every single rushing player on the Ravens had more rushing attempts than Kareem Hunt did this game. You see the comparison. Josh Jacobs with 31 attempts compared to Hunt's 14, especially when OBJ's down and even Austin Hooper's down. You don't have a lot of targets for Mayfield to throw to, so he needs to rely on this run game, and hopefully Nick Chubb comes back sooner rather than later. So going into
scheduled to come back next week.
Oh, well, that's good for this team. But looking at the next game, we have the Chiefs with a 35-9 victory over the Jets. No surprise. If the Jets manage to win, I think the streets would be going crazy. Patrick Mahomes with his usual performance, not super surprising, but 416 yards, 5 touchdowns. Sharing the wealth, Tyreek was managed to get 2 really long bomb touchdowns, but Travis Kelce with a very good game, 8 receptions, 109 yards, and a touchdown. Mecole Hardman out there actually putting in some work with 7 receptions for 96 yards and a touchdown. And Demarcus Robinson coming out of nowhere like he usually does when Sammy Watkins is in here with 4 receptions for 63 yards and a touchdown. And that run game was just really bad for the Chiefs. They didn't really have to do anything. No player had more than 6 rushing attempts, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire of 21 rushing yards, and Le'Veon Bell with 6 rushes for 7 yards against his former team.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I expected the Bills to do to the Jets a couple weeks ago. This is what every team should do to the Jets, to be honest. But, yeah, I mean, Mahomes just being Mahomes, he tossed 5, and no run game here. Bell with 7 yards.
It's very disappointing to see. But Braxton Berrios with 8 receptions for only 34 yards. So you managed to get 11.4 points out of him. Good job to you. So how about this Colts-Lions game, Jose?
Yeah, kind of a weird explosion of offense for the Colts. Unexpected with Jordan Wilkins 89 yards and a touchdown, as well as Hines with 2 touchdowns through the air, and Marvin Hall on the Lions catching 4 for 113. Just a weird, unexpected. The unexpected players are the ones that shined in this game. Hawkinson showing that he's a must-start tight end in all formats, 7 for 65. And DeAndre Swift with disciplined games, carries for 1 yard. Just I don't understand how the Lions feel. I mean, Matthew Stafford had more rushing yards than DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, but I mean, looking at it, I mean, this Colts defense is really, really good this year, so you got to be aware of that. But, Phillip Rivers seeming to get it kind of kicking in the gear here, 262 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, I'm not expecting to see, prime Phillip Rivers out here, but he's doing a lot better than he was last year, especially now that he's got this crazy offensive line led by star guard Quentin Nelson. So going into this next game, we have the Vikings, actually surprising to me, with a 28-22 victory over the Packers. And this was not the air raid was not the reason why the Vikings won. Dalvin Cook with a monster day, 163 yards rushing with 3 touchdowns and 2 receptions for 63 yards and a TD through the air. Absolutely dominant performance by Dalvin Cook. 8 points, I believe he put up. Absolutely ridiculous. What do you got to say about this Packers side?
I mean, you saying it was Vikings 28? I think it was more like Dalvin Cook 28, Packers 22. Yeah, Dalvin Cook becoming the first player to score a touchdown in each of the first 4 possessions of the team. Just a ridiculous game. I mean, it's crazy because I swear every week this guy has speculation that he's banged up. He might not play this week. And then he comes out and just puts up this type of stat line. It's ridiculous to see. But Devontae Adams with a monster game on the Packers, 7 for 53 and 3 touchdowns. Sadly, this backfield just continues to get hurt though. Jamal Williams now out and looks like, yeah. They're calling up Dexter Williams to be their lead back now. So not looking good for this Packers team. Hopefully Aaron Jones can come back soon.
Mm-hmm. And how about you tackle this one with your boy Herbert, game number 10, Broncos 31-30 over the Chargers?
Man, I was watching this game start to finish, and Herbert came out and threw a pick on the first drive of the game. And I was like, okay, it's going to be one of those days. But then next drive, Herbert had 12 straight completions, and he just looked really poised. It didn't even bother him that he threw a pick. Mike Williams had a couple really big catches down the stretch. He caught 5 for 99 and a touchdown. Keenan Allen, kind of that safety blanket for him, 9 catches for 67. And Justin Jackson having a good breakout game, 89 yards rushing and 3 catches for 53. Hopefully he can take over as their lead back now because Kelly's pretty much out of that backfield. And
100%.
Yeah, but Herbert ties Deshaun Watson for the longest streak in history by a rookie with 4 games of 3 or more passing touchdowns. So, but the Chargers just seem to keep blowing leads. I mean,
yeah,
they couldn't
they
stop
did
the
last
run. Year. Yeah, comeback Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at the Broncos side. Yeah, Drew Lock with a really good game, 3 touchdowns, interception. Philip Lindsay making the work out there in the backfield with only 6 rushes, but 83 yards and a touchdown. And Melvin Gordon was not really promising, at least from the running side, but he was able to chip in 6 receptions for 21 yards. And Noah Fant with his return, 7 receptions for 47 yards. And unfortunately, Jerry Jeudy isn't catching a lot of touchdowns this year, so he isn't kind of up there in the ranks with what we see of Justin Jefferson, but a solid performance with 4 receptions for 73 yards. So going to this one game, it was just, I don't know, it wasn't the most interesting game when I tuned in during it. We got the Saints with a 26-23 victory over the Bears. Looking at the Saints side, Drew Brees, 31 for 41 with 280 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kamara, 67 rushing yards. And Cook was able to get a touchdown. Taysom Hill was able to get a touchdown. And Kamara was leading it with the receptions with 9 for 96. Hopefully Michael Thomas should be back next week, but who knows with his diva status it seems like going on there in New Orleans. So how about the Bears?
Yeah, I mean, pay Allen Robinson. He's looking like a top 3 receiver this year. 6 for 87 and a touchdown. But I think the most interesting thing that happened this game was Wims on the Bears' little mouth guard scandal with Chauncey with Gardner Johnson.
Mm-hmm. But no, looks like Miller had a good game. Darnell Mooney it seems like he's kind of an under the radar wide receiver from what I've been hearing. 5 receptions for 69 yards and a touchdown. And Dave Montgomery did his best against the Saints defense with 89 yards rushing. And now the Saints acquire a star linebacker from the 49ers, Quan Alexander, hoping to bring him back to that form that he used to be, the reason why the Niners signed him back a few off seasons ago. So speaking of the Niners, Niners losing to their division rival Seahawks, no surprise here. Seahawks with a 37-27 victory over the Niners, having basically no running backs, but DJ Dallas coming out of nowhere with a big game, actually. I believe put up 20+. But Russell Wilson, the Russell Wilson we know and love, 27 attempts, 37 completions. 27 for 37, 261 yards, 4 touchdowns. DK Metcalf really showing out this game. 12 receptions for 161 yards, 2 touchdowns. Just kind of embarrassing this 49ers team who, at least you saw some production about Brandon Ayuk, but this team is just, headed straight for the bottom of this NFC West right now with all the injuries, losing Garoppolo, losing Kittle. So what about this one, Jose?
Yeah, Ayuk looking like a pretty good draft pick. Metcalf just continues to be insane. Him and Lockett kind of just like alternate with insane weeks, it seems like. I want to see them both have a good week together, but yeah, just the Seahawks team, the offense is insane. It doesn't matter who they have in the backfield at this point. Like, who heard of DJ Dallas before this week? And he just comes out and gets 2 touchdowns. So I think, the Seahawks team is poised and looking to make a run this year.
Yeah, it seems to be. So, sorry, Jose, but probably the most painful game I've watched this year. The Eagles versus the Cowboys. How about you tackle this one with your boy, Ben DiNucci?
My MVP this game was Trayvon Diggs. Shout out Trayvon Diggs. 6 tackles and 2 picks. But, all right, Ben DiNucci, hate on him all you want. He had more yards than Carson Wentz, all right? Carson Wentz with 2 picks, 123 yards. Like, he looked terrible.
Yeah, I think one of the first times – there's some weird stats out there. Carson Wentz, 4 turnovers, and they're still managing to win the game out there, yeah.
But, Fulgham, I think the only one on this Eagles team really that you can trust every week. He's proven to be pretty solid since he came in. 6 for 78 and a touchdown this week. But on the Cowboys side of the ball, I think they're just going to go full tank. DiNucci's out now. Who knows who they're going to start, whether it be Cooper Rush or Gilbert. I wouldn't trust anyone in this Cowboys offense at this point, not even Zeke. I wouldn't be surprised if they cut Zeke's carries either.
Yeah, Tony Pollard was getting a lot of work out there when I was watching the game, but we shall see. But no, going to this last game, pretty interesting to see the Giants holding themselves against a Tampa Bay team that we think is primed for Super Bowl contention. But the Buccaneers have a 25-23 victory over the Giants as the Giants failed to convert a crucial 2-point attempt late in the game to send the game to overtime. But Tom Brady out there being flawless, 270 9 yards for 2 TDs, bringing in the 19.06 fantasy points. Gronkowski getting that connection back. But it seems like the story, what I've seen, is that Ronald Jones is losing his backfield all of a sudden, which kind of surprised me, given that we were seeing so much success out of him when Fournette was out. But it seems like it's shifted over to Fournette.
Yeah. I mean, Ronald Jones has been having a pretty decent season. I mean, inefficient, but putting up numbers still, and getting goal line work. But it seems like Fournette's taking over that role now. On the Giants side of the ball, pretty much just Sterling Shepard, 8 for 74, I think. But he was on waivers on a lot of leagues last week.
Yeah, because he's been injured.
Yeah, so good pickup if you manage to get him. But yeah, really no one else on this Giants offense.
Yeah, I mean, Wayne Gallman seems to have taken the backfield over from Devontae Freeman. So it seems like if you're trying to get something, maybe try and pick up Wayne Gallman if you're losing a lot of backs this week because of bye week. So who knows? But, not the most interesting week, but we'll tackle it over with the best parts of the week with our fantasy team of the week. QB1, we got Patrick Mahomes, 36.64 points, and his destroying over the New York Giants. RB1 with the best performance of the week, Dalvin Cook with 48.6 points, running over that Packers defense. And RB2 was Alvin Kamara, quiet game, but he was able to bring in a lot of receptions for yards, be able to beat this Bears team. Wide receiver 1, DK Metcalf, an absolute stud of a performance out there against San Francisco. Wide receiver 2, Devontae Adams with 30.3 points. And tight end Travis Kelce, who's been a very common theme on this list at week in, week out with 24.9 points. And our flex, like I mentioned earlier, Robert Woods of 28.4 points. Looking at the defense, special teams of the week, we got the Eagles. And then kicker, we got Michael Badgley and Ryan Suckup, both bringing in 15 points. So if you were able to have any of these players on your team this week, must have been good for you. So other than that, you will see us later in the week as we break down the halfway point of the season with some interesting topics, talking about our halfway point MVP and so on and so forth. So if you want to know what's going on, tune in to see it there. But otherwise, signing out. Peace.